of the Department of Youth and Culture for inviting me to speak to you. I've been a teacher for 18 years, but I have been writing poems for almost 50 years. My address to you is entitled, Why I Write Cultural Poems and Songs. It has been said that nothing stands in the way of progress, but with progress comes small changes and even the loss of culture, because cultural things are considered to be old-timeish, old-fashioned. It's in my bones. From the day that I was born, on January 3rd, 1952, until today, I would say culture is in me. I walked it, I talked it, I lived it every day for 63 years. So then, for me, what was and is the best way to share it with the people of Anguilla at home and abroad? Write about it. I was 15 years old when the revolution began, and shortly after, the doctor's house and the Lansom building were burnt. Thus, my first poem was one entitled Lansom, written at age 17, and my first song was This is Anguilla, written for the royal visit of the Queen in 1984. When I look around Anguilla, I see beauty everywhere. The rock walls, the shingle houses, the felt houses, the mahogany trees on Coronation Avenue. When I recall the days of bringing water from the well, picking wood, and picking salt from the nearby pond. When I rehearse in my mind the 2-hour trips from the Forest Bay to St. Martin, the monthly open-air gospel meetings under trees, or the cracking of stones in the moonlight to help build relatives' houses. When I think of those things, I see a world of information that, to me, is best appreciated in poetry form, because, as you can see, with time, much of that way of life is being lost and replaced with new machinery and technology. And that is how I started scripting about the Anguilla of yesteryear. About 80% of my poems are based on those personal experience. This is because there is a love for Anguilla and its heritage deep within me that must be expressed. My grandmother took the time to tell me all about her ancestry, and luckily for me, I can trace my relatives back to about 1840. She told me stories about sailing and sailors that were stranded for many days. I listened to World War stories, cane cutting stories and such. She introduced me to herbal medicines and the cures for inside and outside of the body. She taught me how to dance the merengue and the waltz. She showered me daily with old-time sayings and proverbs. No wonder then I write so many dialect poems. She asked me to read poems to her almost every night from a book she got from her daughters in Curacao. This constant reading of those poems, her continuous tales of old-time things, and the awareness of my daily aspects of life awakened the desire to write cultural poems. My bare feet have traveled dusty roads over 2 miles to and from school, or winding bush paths to visit family and friends. I have washed in bag pans next to a well over a mile away from home. I hung my washed-down clothes on bushes and ironed them with a goose. How can I erase the memory of daily cooking on 3 rocks, or ironing my hair with a hot comb and setting curls with twisted strips of cement paper? I have studied for my GCE exams by lamplight. I never used the telephone until I was 18 or 19 years of age. And I never had daily access to a fridge until I was 20 years old. I have known relatives who died in the morning, and the whole village rushed to be ready for the funeral in the afternoon. Meanwhile, relatives overseas did not learn of the death until 1 or 2 weeks later by letter. I've seen 4,000 people rise up to repel after unfair leadership in St. Kitts. Do I want us to return to those days? I emphatically say no. But these things are deeply ingrained in me. And when I look back at them, I see peace, love, unity, friendship, stamina, and pride. And as these characteristics well up in me, I find no other alternative but to use a pen and paper and transfer them into a beautiful collection of poems. I have written poems ranging from something as simple as black hairstyles to the complex events of the revolution. Anguilla is where I was born, christened, confirmed, educated, baptized, married, and live. I love this land. I am very aware that in the past there were very few Anguillan writers or books written about Anguilla. I have tried to be one of the many to chink that pole, right, teacher? Chink that pole using Anguillan language. I encourage you to write about Anguilla. Record your experiences so that your children and grandchildren can look back and learn about our little island. Anguilla is precious. It is unique. And it's up to you to use your individual fingerprint on its pages. I interject here that I was writing since 1969, but we didn't have a printing press. So it was not until 1984, 15 years later, and after much discarded work, that my poetry was first exposed and appreciated thanks to Anguilla Christian. You are much more privileged than I was. You can write and publish today. Now, before I leave you, I would like to present this poem entitled, I Say Leave 'Em Alone. Don't you ever call 'em Dunsey, cause 6 D's on your report. I bet you ain't noticed 2 A's, one for singing and one for sport. You see the kind of wire toys that little recorder does make, and especially how he good at fixing his older brother breaks. You just watch him good, cause he gonna be rich like a king, cause he's a boss with his hands. And hey, did you ever hear him sing? And that little quiet girl back there, her grades is just bad news. I promise you, she's the one that can send you on a cruise. Them students that have the kind of jobs that has put thousands in your hands. And you see that little fella there? His consort's gonna be grand. So, if she prefer to comb hair and he prefer to run and draw, what reason anybody got to force them into law? So it takes some time now and then and train them in those ways. You'll be shocked to see that them is getting A's and A's and A's. So you're still calling them Dunsey because them can't do maths? Honey, when them fellas come big, we gonna be borrowing their money. Just have a little bit of patience and tell them, you're doing very well. Tomorrow, next day, he might be chief minister. You can never tell.